bum bum.
Hello!
Howdy. I am your co-host, Simon Freitas.
And I am your co-host, Isaac Freitas.
Got him!
I'm not, though, but I might be. Hi, guys. Welcome to the Freitae Effect. If you are here listening to us, I'm going to tell you what the show's about.
Heyo.
The Freitae Effect is a podcast about Azab and I, two Ethiopian-American siblings who are trying to keep it real as we navigate adulthood and share things about our community and what's affecting us right now in the past and in the future.
Amen, because we
Yes.
present, baby.
We are here, we are here, we are here. Horton hears us and a who.
Oh my God. What an introduction.
Yes.
Thank you for dealing with us up until this point.
Just starting.
So last week was the first episode of our Conversations with Creatives series, where we featured our dear friends and visual artists, Trisha Toe and Gustavo Barceloni. You can go back to episode 25 to hear about their evolution as artists and their multifaceted identities. The Conversations with Creatives segment is to uplift artistic voices and knowledge share their experience and wisdom. So this week we are sharing the perspective of 3 artists from the acting and directing world.
Yes.
So I'm going to talk about my friend Pascale Florestal. We used to work at the Box Center together, formerly known as the City Performing Arts Center, where we were both teaching artist assistants for the City Spotlight's Teen Leadership Summer Program. It was a program centered around helping teens explore their identities as artists and activists, where they actually got paid to put on community workshops about social justice issues and did flash mobs around the city, and their final showcase that encompassed a topic of advocacy. So afterwards, obviously, she continued to work with many, many, many theater organizations in the Boston and Cambridge area, and just kind of greater New England area, and continues to shine her light everywhere. And you will learn more about what she's up to these days in her interview later.
Yes, and I interviewed the next 2 people. I will speak on my experience with Amanda Giglio, one of the best people on earth for musical theater. So Amanda was one of my first friends at UNH, actually, and we lived in the same dorm freshman year. She was involved in the musical theater program. Throughout my time there, I saw her in a bunch of musicals, and it really inspired me to go and audition for shows. But she also is an amazing performer, singer, dancer, as well as being a marvelous director, and I can't wait for y'all to hear the things that she got to say in her interview. And Azza, do you want to introduce Henrique?
Of course I do. So, Henrique Santos, a.k.a. Mateos, is Kellen's childhood best friend. Kellen is my best friend, and I'm actually her best friend, but we're gonna get over that for today. So obviously me and Enrique, we became friends because we have mutual best friends. Duh. But obviously we realized we're very similar, and we chose to interview him because he is bringing the writing and director's perspective of the film industry, which is actually different than the theater world. He's also a visual artist with animation and a photographer.
Wow.
So before we get into these goddamn interviews, it's time for
How the Turns Have Tabled.
Table.
So, on this episode of How the Turns Have Tabled, I'll be talking about my first time acting, which actually was not planned. If this is your first time listening to the show, I'll just tell you right now, How the Turns Have Tabled is our little plot twist segment, telling little stories and tidbits into our lives and things that happen to us that will make the tables turn. So, my first time acting was actually at Azeb's preschool field trip.
Yep.
So I was a little 3-year-old or 2. I don't even know how young I was. But Azeb was in preschool, and she's a year and 9 months ahead of me. So just imagine how tiny I was. And my parents were chaperoning the field trip to the Children's Museum. Azeb was a little over 4 years old, so I was probably around 2. And there was a performance of The 3 Little Pigs, and they were asking for volunteers. So Little 2-year-old Simon sitting in the audience, like, I gotta be fucking part of everything, like, no FOMO, bitches.
Yep.
And I put my hand up, and they're like, no, we're not gonna pick this 2-year-old because he's not even in the class. Like, we gotta choose someone
It doesn't even go here.
Literally, like, Mean Girls moment.
Literally.
And then I start throwing a fucking tantrum because I was like, I need to be on stage. And I start crying, and then they were like, Jesus Christ. So they were, the teacher, Mrs. Jean, said that I could go up and be the big bad wolf, and I apparently went up and started huffing and puffing, and everyone started laughing. And my mom says that she wished that it didn't happen in the 90s so she could have videoed it and, like, you know, we could show it to you guys today. But ever since then, you know, I kind of found my passion for theater as I grew up. I joined the drama club in 6th grade and ended up playing the Big Bad Wolf again in this musical called The Big Bad Musical, Trial of the Big Bad Wolf. And ever since then, I've been acting. Although I guess, you know, all of life is acting and reacting. So who's to say having a script in your hand really makes a difference for how you're processing your emotions?
All right. We got meta.
Yeah. So
I feel you though, because I'm like almost there with dance right now of being like, you know, when we walk, isn't that a form of dance?
it is.
Or even when we speak is a form of song.
Yep.
You know, we speak in rhythms and we speak with a range, but we're not going to get there today.
Not today.
But
maybe tomorrow.
Y'all got a little taste of where our brains
But
really
again,
go.
we are here.
Oh God. But yeah, I love that story of your acting origin story. How you got to where you are today.
Yes.
Because your true inner Leo was really showing.
Honestly, yes.
Yeah.
I needed the spotlight immediately, and I saw an actual spotlight, and it was fucking time, guys.
Or maybe it was just like your separation anxiety because I was at school and you didn't want to be alone.
Yeah. Well, I needed people to look at me. Like,
Yeah,
that
you were
was
like,
the most important part.
What?
I was like, no, this is Oz's field trip. It's my time to shine.
Yeah, you said, excuse me, I'm the youngest one here.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all are irrelevant.
Muy importante.
Word. So we finna slide right into these interviews. No break, honey.
No.
So the first interview is with Pascale. Pascale.
Yes.
How would you like the people to know you?
So I describe myself as a theater artist, and I specialize in directing, dramaturgy, producing, and I'm an educator as well. And I also sometimes say a collaborator. Sometimes in theater, in the way that we work, you can wear many hats and be doing a variety of different things. So I like to say collaborator because sometimes I may be directing a show, but I might be producing some events or certain things that intersect with what the show or theme that we're trying to bring to the audience is about.
Dope. Jumping out of order here. What are you working on now? Are you working? Where are you?
Yes. So I am working as the Arts Emergency Preparedness Coordinator with the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture.
Okay.
With the city of Boston. And so what that basically means is during this pandemic, I've been helping the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture create resources and bring together all the people who do arts and culture work in Boston to support them during this time of the pandemic. So one of the biggest things that we've been doing is every Friday we have these COVID-19 update meetings, and it's open to any and all arts and culture organizations and or artists in the city of Boston. And we talk about what's happening in terms of the numbers and cases that are going on, as well as testing. We'll probably do normally we have a public health update to let the people know how we're doing in terms of the pandemic. And since the reopening has slowly started, we've been talking about what that's going to look like for Boston arts and culture, and just other things in order to help support the arts and culture that are happening here in Boston so that the pandemic doesn't eradicate us.
Yes, important.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's so cool. I didn't know you had a career shift.
Yes, it's mostly the pandemic said, oh, you're not going to be able to assemble and gather and make art the way you normally do. So here is another opportunity to service the arts and culture. Wow. So that's what I'm doing in the interim.
Oh, that's freaking exciting, dude.
Yeah.
So what were you doing before all of this stuff?
Before this, I had just quit my day job and started freelancing as a director. I have, in the last couple of years, been able to do a lot of great work with a variety of theater companies and artists, and had been able to find enough work so that I could just depend on my artistry for a bit. And so I was assistant directing at the Huntington on Our Daughters Like Pillars. I was scheduled, well, I did, to devise a piece with Boston Conservatory. I was also going to direct with Theater of the Offensive and teach with BU. So I had all of these projects all set up and ready to go. And then the pandemic was like, nope, not happening. Luckily, I was able to have some of those gigs still happen. Like I continued on with BOCO and was able to still work with their students, which was great.
Awesome.
And I'll be able to work with them again in the future. So it's been a lot of trying to keep myself as an artist and still be in the conversations of theater. I have been lucky enough to get to have work. So that's been exciting. And in this coming summer, which is now weird, I'll be working with the Cape Cod Theater Project and directing a devised piece with their interns.
Cool.
So that's exciting. So I'm still doing the directing thing and supporting artists. I'm doing some dramaturgy here and there, and I also have been doing some writing in the meantime.
So exciting. Yeah. I'm just so glad to hear people are still doing things, you know.
Yes, I will say it's not in the same like momentum. You know, I think like some days are easier to make art and some days aren't with everything that's going on. But I think a lot of the things that is, I should say, rejuvenating my creativity is seeing people, you know, stand up for what's happening. People respond to the years and centuries of oppression that people of color have been experiencing, and now the world is kind of waking up to it. So I think a lot of that has gotten people excited, and I think it's also draining too. So it's just balancing all of that as we move through this weird traumatic pandemic, because it's traumatic and that's a fact, and it's okay that we're going through it right now.
Yeah. I'm just glad that like I'm not the only one that says really heavy shit really enthusiastically. So like, thank you for reciprocating that same energy.
I'm here for it. I got you, Azad, but we're right here. We're
literally here. Word. So, to back up a little bit, when would you say was like the moment in your life that you were like, you know what, I identify as an artist?
That's such a great question. It is 2020. I think, so I moved to Boston the summer of 2014 after I had graduated from college and done City Year Miami, because I was very interested in this intersection of theater, social justice, change. Like, how do we bring these two together? And I knew that education could be a filter for that. And so when I moved to Boston, I knew that I wanted to continue some kind of artistry with my work, but I didn't know how to make that happen and how to make it sustainable. And I think it wasn't until I quit my first time quitting my day job to go freelance was like the fall of 2016, I believe. It was like, of course, when, you know, the world changed. And I was like, I'm going to take a chance and try to be this artist. And that's kind of when I started really embracing it. I think for a long time, I feel like there's this stigma about being an artist, and like, you're only an artist if you're always doing your artistry. Like, if you have a day job, you're not an artist, and that's not true.
Right.
And it's totally fine to have a day job and be an artist at night, or your day job is what's, you know, financially making it possible for you to do your artistry. And it wasn't until I kind of failed at freelancing that I realized I didn't have to do one or the other. I spent a whole year trying to like do the thing. I got into this really great observership program with SDC, which is the Stage Directors and Choreographers Union, in the theater world. And I had hoped that I was going to get some kind of opportunity. And it was interesting, the way they did the program was they accepted like 150 people in the program, but there were only like 20 opportunities. So you had like a 16% chance of possibly getting one of these opportunities, even if you were great for it. And I could only apply to so many because I needed money to be able to pay rent and to live. So after I kind of like failed, I got a full-time job the next year, and I told myself I'm not going to do any artistry. I'm just going to focus on, you know, getting a job and making some money and not having to worry about it. And I actually got more work, and I was able to kind of like get back into it. And so I think, you know, since then I've realized like no matter what I'm doing, I'm always an artist in my work, as if that's what I want to do. And I truly believe that an artist can be many things and can function many ways. But I think an artist is someone who uses their creativity to feel the world, to teach the world, to create some kind of impact in a way that is different than maybe a doctor or a lawyer. So I think that's kind of when I've embraced it. And that's something I constantly struggle with a lot, when I don't feel like I'm being my best artist self, because I'm not always maybe doing the work, or I'm not as busy or as booked. And I think this time especially has like kind of tested that. Like, what does it mean to be an artist during a pandemic, when we, like theater artists, aren't able to come together in rooms, and that's what we do. So it's been interesting to see us, you know, pivot to the virtual world and using Zoom and using all these different platforms to still create art and sustain that part of ourselves.
Girl, yes. All of it. Literally all of it. Oh my God.
It's a struggle. It's real.
So how did you find your path to this world?
Love this question. So I actually started out as a dancer. I started taking ballet when I was 3.
Oh my God.
Yes, I took ballet, jazz, hip hop, tap. I really got into ballet and hip hop as I got older. And I think I was dancing and doing recitals until I was at least 16. And then when I was in high school, I grew up in Miami, Florida, and one of the requirements when you graduate is to have 75 hours worth of community service hours. And I had heard from a friend of mine while I was in high school that the drama club was giving out community service hours for people who work backstage. And I had never like seen theater. I did not know what theater was. And I was like, what is theater? But I knew I needed those hours to graduate and go to college. And so I signed up, and I think I did like backstage work for a play. I can't even remember what the play was. And then I remember the drama teacher saying that someone who was supposed to audition for this play they were doing called The Good Body by Eve Ensler had dropped out, and she thought I would be perfect for the role. And I was like, I don't know how to act. What is acting in theater? So I signed up and I auditioned, and that was like my first play I did. And I was hooked from then on. I loved being around the other drama kids and making theater. And I had to juggle between theater and dance. And my mom gave me this ultimatum. I believe I was like 17. It's like I had to choose dance or theater because I didn't have the time to make both work. And I had tried to like make dancing a career of mine when I was younger. I tried to go to a dance magnet school, but I didn't get in. And so I had this very weird relationship with dance at that point. So I decided to stop going to classes, and I just fully committed to theater, and I fell in love, and I started doing more plays. I became president of the drama club, but by my senior year. And I didn't even think I was going to study theater when I was applying for college. I had applied for like half theater and half psychology, because I also was like, maybe I could be a therapist.
I feel like we all go through that phase.
Right? Yes.
We're like, I should be a therapist.
I'm great at giving advice. People love coming and talking to me. So obviously that should be my path. So that's what like I was applying for psychology and for theater, and I got into Ithaca, and it just worked. And I never really like been immersed in the theater world growing up in Miami, because it's not as I think now the Miami theater scene is really coming out and really becoming something to hopefully go to as a place to incubate and be a creative theater artist. But it wasn't as big as Boston, New York, Chicago. Like, you're not going to find the kind of theater you find in those cities. And so I knew I had to get out of the Florida bubble to really understand what that world was like. And I wanted to go to New York. Like, I was like, I have to go to New York. And so I went to Ithaca, and that really, going to Ithaca really changed a lot of what I knew about theater, how I experienced it, what kinds of theater there was. So that was a big turning point for me and really got me into being a part of it. And then moving to Boston, that was a whole other way of interacting with it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I had no idea. Wow. So would you say that your dance history has it impacted any of your work?
Yes, it really has. And I think it's why I would rather direct than act. Mm-hmm. When I first got to college, I was just a BA because I didn't know what I could do with theater. But the thing I knew that I could do was act, because that's how a lot of young people come to theater, is through performing. Yep. It's very rare that you'll take a directing class in high school. You'll take an acting class. Right. And one of the things that I love about dance is choreography and making these beautiful pictures on stage and really being able to tell stories through movement. And I think a lot of the reasons why I'm a good director is because I know how to move and I understand movement very well. Mm-hmm. And I would do choreography all the time in college. I choreographed some musicals. I choreographed a couple of cabarets and one-night shows. And it's always been something I wanted to incorporate more in my theater. I think I love musical theater, though I'm a big, I think I have a little bit more knowledge of the American theater because of all of my studies, but musicals have always been my favorite part of creating. Mm-hmm. And that's what I would love to do more of, so that I could do more choreography and be able to blend those worlds. I haven't had the opportunity to do it as much because I think for so long I've put dancing back and put theater in the forefront, which is like really sad, because that's my first love, has always been dance. And like, I would dream about auditioning for So You Think You Can Dance and like going back to it and doing all these things. So I hope to continue to incorporate in some way, but the musical realm has been my way of like bringing dance back, or using transitions during plays as an opportunity to bring movement.
Yes. I love that. Okay, so then I guess my last question, why do you feel like you create? Are you someone who creates to heal? Are you someone who creates because it's how you process emotions, or do you just like to do it?
Yeah, I think I've always had a passion, not only for creating, but for having conversations about important issues. Mm-hmm. I grew up in a school that was predominantly of color, and most of my theater came from social justice. So a lot of what I do is inherently to represent the community that I know and that I don't see enough of. Mm-hmm. My work is to not only represent, but to give more opportunities to different narratives. And that's why I do what I do. Some of the first plays I read wasn't Shakespeare. It was Susan Laurie Park's Top Dog, Underdog. Mm-hmm. It was plays that were about communities that look like me. Mm-hmm. And that's what always got me with theater, is being able to see myself on stage. And that's why I continue to do it and see those stories. Because theater has that opportunity to really transform and open up conversations that I think film and TV does, but it's so different when it's right in front of your face. You can't get away from it. And so that's why I do it in that way. Sometimes I think inherently there is entertainment in that. Mm-hmm. There is healing in that. And I think that's all a part of it. Mm-hmm. And I love that part too, because I love that you can hold so many truths in this one container. And that's why I do it. I think there was a time where I was like, I just do it for fun. And then I looked at all the work that I have done since I've started, and there was always some message of the importance of understanding each other's stories, of representing communities we don't see, of being able to have these difficult conversations that we just pretend aren't real or aren't happening. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's why I do it. And I think it's an opportunity for change, it's an opportunity for progress. And that's also in it as well for me.
Well, thank you, Queen.
Thank you.
Literally, thank you so much for everything, just for all of that. That was perfect.
Thanks.
You're amazing.
It reminds me of our times of dancing in the basement of the Wang Theater.
Throwback.
Memorizing the flash dance. Oh my god, the flash mob. I used to love that flash mob dance. I would dance anytime I heard that song.
Yes. Oh my god, yeah. I still sing the songs.
They're so good. You can't deny those kids. They knew exactly how to make a catchy tune. Be stuck in our heads for months.
But all right, girl. Thank you so much for being on my freaking show.
Thank you for asking me. I can't wait to hear it. Y'all are doing such cool work. I love it.
Thanks, man. Okay, so we are back, and instead of what we normally do, where we share points that we took away from that interview now, we're just going to slide into the next couple of interviews and share our main points afterwards. So Amanda's interview is now.
And we are here with Amanda. How you doing?
Hey, Simon, I'm good.
Happy to hear it. So let's get started with this interview. The first question is, how do you identify, like, names, pronouns, race, ethnicity, whatever you want to say to the world?
Heck yeah. I'm Amanda. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm a bisexual white lady.
Yes. I love it. Great. So, question number 2. When did you? Sorry, I'm just like making this sound like WWE.
I've gotten really into WWE over the past year. I'm not joking. It is the purest form of theater.
Well, also, just fun fact for anyone listening to this interview, if you've made it this far into the episode, we're actually going to be having a WWE episode eventually. But we are talking about acting today. So, Amanda, I want to ask, when did you first identify as an artist?
Yeah, I grew up as a dancer from the age of 3. When I was 3, I started taking dance classes, and then I really was just a dancer through most of high school. And then in high school, I started doing like musicals. And then honestly, I always knew that I wanted to do it. But when I would say I became an artist, it was probably like in my late college years when I started making things that I think counted.
Yep.
You know, started making things where I'm like, that's here for a purpose, and I've contributed to that purpose.
Okay, I like that. Another question. Dun, 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 dun. What was the transition like going from being a dancer to musicals and like kind of getting into more acting?
It took a while, not in the sense that it took me a while to like get into musicals. It was like I just started like doing musicals, but it took me a while for myself to feel confident in anything other than dancing. Even through college, I was like, oh, I am just a dancer. Please, I will not act for you and I will not sing for you, but I will try, but hire me for my dancing. You know, and it took a while for it to be like, oh no, you know what, I can do all three. I can do all three. And I feel better about that, you know?
Yeah.
But that wasn't until I did like summer camps in high school, which is where it got more into musicals out of dance.
So the question that I had was, the next one that I have is, have you considered tapping into other things? But it does seem like you started off with one thing and then like transitioned. So I guess I more want to ask, how has that like affected your kind of what you do like as an artist, like all these like intersections of the art forms that you have?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I started with one thing and then I branched out into a bunch of things in like high school and college, and now I'm back to like one thing. Because I don't really perform anymore, and that was like that's a whole other thing when you realize when you have your degree in performing and then you're like, oh god, do I not want to do this anymore? You know, that's like that's a whole nother thing. But I had a moment where I was like, oh, I'm much happier directing and choreographing than I am performing. Like I want to be a part of the decisions. I want to make the decisions.
Yeah.
I want to, I want to lead this team to a production. but I think something that I use in my directing and choreography is like my little knowledge of like what it's like to be on stage, because a lot of the times I'll be working with actors and I'm thinking like what do they need? What do they need? And it's like, oh, so this is something that I needed when I was an actor. Like, will this work for you? And oftentimes it's like, oh yeah, that worked. Thank you. And I'm like, yeah, I was thinking like an actor.
What do you think was the most useful when you were honing in your skills?
Oh, honestly, when you go into a degree, into like a college program, you get so much more knowledge of how things actually work. I felt like, in summer camps, and it's like, oh, we're doing a musical in this room and there's no set and there's no lights, but you're gonna sing and you're gonna do it. And sometimes it's a very simplified version of what like a larger production is. So I think that, with the degree knowledge, it's a lot of like, oh, here's how the nitty gritty works. Here's like the little things that you might not have noticed, but like that's what comes into play here. College also gives you a sense of community and like the different types of people, and like how to make a rehearsal room work for all types of people, and for everyone to feel comfortable in your rehearsal room, which is not something I thought about until I went to college. And someone would be like, oh, I'm not comfortable in this rehearsal room, and I was like, oh, am I not comfortable in this rehearsal room? Okay, like in the future, what can I do to make that better for everyone?
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Because that's true. Like the space that you're in, like how that affects the art that you create and how that changes from when you go place to place. So the nitty gritty. All right. The little things, little bit. So I guess this is more of a vague question, but why do you create? Like, is it more healing, like, to make money? Like, why do you feel like you create the art that you do?
God, it is not to make money. If it was, my life would be so much easier. I thought about this a lot. I went to, actually this week, last year, I was in Washington, D.C. for the Kennedy Center directing intensive through KCACTF, the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival. And something that we worked on a lot was like, you have to have that statement of like, why do you do theater? Like, you have to have that statement, especially as a director, to be like, this is why I have to do this, and why like you have to hire me, and I thought a lot about it, because it took me a while. Like, there were some people that were like, oh, I just know, and I was like, oh God, I didn't think about this. But I thought about it a lot, and I love the immortalizing things. So, in every show I do, there's like a little bit of like someone I love, or like a little bit of like myself that I get to put into this art, that like normal people wouldn't notice it, you know what I mean? But I can say like, that's you, like that's you, and that's me, and people are like, and it's here, it's in the ethos for forever now,
Yeah.
So there's that sense of like immortalizing things that I'm proud of and that I want to show to other people.
Yes. There's just so much weight to that, like, like making something eternal, like,
right?
Yes. What are you working on now?
Oh boy.
If anything.
Before coronavirus, I was directing Prescott Park's and choreographing Prescott Park's main stage musical up in New Hampshire. I was also in the middle of working on a new musical at Brandeis, at Brandeis University, that I was really excited about, and that might still happen in the fall, hopefully. And then I also was choreographing a show for the Firehouse in Newburyport. I was choreographing Kiss Me Kate for them. But both Prescott Park and Firehouse got canceled, which is, it's gotta, theater can't come back right now. I'm so sorry. It's not, it's gotta be safe. But but I was working on, and hopefully we'll continue to work on, this new musical called Our Day Will Come. It was written by some seniors at Brandeis, and I've never worked on like a full-length new musical. You know, I've directed like capstones, but a full-length new musical was really, really cool. All original music, and it was about conflicts in Ireland, the IRA and the Protestants and the Catholics in Ireland, and it was really dark, and I was like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
dark art.
Oh my God, yes.
It was really cool, and it was going to be like fully immersive. Hopefully it still will be. But it was some senior projects, and they're gonna, right now the plan is that they're gonna come back in the fall, and like we can still make it happen. I'm hoping that like if the fall maybe doesn't work out, that like the spring again will work out for that, because it's a good show, and it's really cool to work on a new musical.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially with I love Ireland so fucking much. And like when I studied abroad there, we heard about the Troubles, and just like how even right now it's been like 30 years, and like people are still not comfortable with each other. It's still like reconciling what's happened back then. So yeah, that seems like an amazing idea for a musical.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it's nice. It shows kind of like both sides, like really equally, which is very cool, the way that they did it. That it's very much like, just there are bad things on both sides, and you know, what do you think, audience?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which is very cool.
Oh, that sounds so cool. That sucks that got shut down because of the Rona, but you know,
I'll let you know if it comes back. You can come in Brighton, Brenda. It's right over in Waltham.
Yee. And then I guess my last question would be, how can people support you, like with the art that you create?
Oh my gosh. Well, right now, you know, please just like give to your local theater. Oh my God, give to your local theater that you like, that can't produce any art right now. You know, and really, really be patient with them, and really, really support them. You know, with coming back from all this, and you know, go see shows when this is over. Go see shows. Come see my shows.
Yes.
Come see my shows. You know, that's just support your local artist.
I like that. Thank you so much, Amanda. And I'm going to end this interview and send it back to whatever world that we were talking about on this podcast. Bam, bam.
Amazing.
Word. So that was Amanda's interview, and now we're just gonna like double whammy, y'all.
Slap, bam, bam. Whammy.
And slide right into Henrique's interview.
I am here with Henrique. So I want to ask you, how do you identify? Name, pronouns, ethnicity, anything you feel like sharing with the viewers at home or listening?
My name is Henrique. Brazilian American, born and raised here. And as far as my creative side, I like to screenwrite. So I just like writing for film and television.
Yeah. Cool. So screenwriting, how did you find yourself getting into that?
So it's been a process for the past, I'd say, 6 years. I guess to start off, I wanted to get into film. And when I say that, I mean I wanted to like write, but also direct, edit, like do everything. You know, I was imagining big. What motivated me was one of my friends. He had moved to Los Angeles at that time when I was about like 19 and he was 20, 21. And I don't know, he wanted to pursue that, and then just seeing him like being able to do that and like move out of state, you know, like that's obviously a big step. So it made me want to do it. And then from there on, that's when my dream started. Fast forward like a couple of years, I buy my first camera. I'm excited. I do a little bit of stuff shooting here and there, nothing too crazy. And then I figure out my passion really isn't in the shooting and directing part anymore. Sold my camera a couple weeks back, and then I just figured out, you know, I really like the writing process, and I think I'm just for now going to focus on that. And if I decide to do anything else in the future, cool. If not, cool as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I want to ask, when would you say you first identified as an artist?
I don't know, because it I'd say maybe probably within the past year or two, because it's one of those things where I've always had the passion, but up until recently, I didn't really, I'm going to be straight up, like I didn't do much and really put in the time and effort. So, I think it started about last year when I took, I don't know if you ever heard, there's this thing called Grub Street in Boston. It's like a writing, like little program, but it's not just for screenwriting. It's like poetry, novel, like a bunch of different writing. Yeah. So, pretty cool. And then, I don't know, just taking those classes and, talking with my teacher and all the advice he gives and just, all the things that you could do within the film industry regarding writing and other stuff too, it kind of lit up my passion, I guess you could say. And it made, because the thing is too, in the class structure, you're kind of more motivated to do certain things, right? Because you have a certain structure and order. So that got me going, and I was like, oh damn, like I'm really feeling this. And ever since last year, I've just been working on this movie that hopefully I could just finish this year and move on to something else. Yeah, not hopefully, I'm gonna finish it this summer. So yeah.
Yeah. I like it. Speak it into existence.
Right.
Next up was like, how did you find your path to this? So I don't know if you've already answered that kind of, but I do want to ask, like, what was it that kind of inspired you most for film?
I think one of the biggest things that inspired me, like I said, my friend had moved to LA, and for some reason since then, I've always been enamored with that city. I don't know why. I've been there twice and I love it. I know living there versus visiting is obviously different.
Yeah.
But I do want to go there, and I just something about being able to tell your own story in your way and having people see it, I think is awesome, because it's your story. You can do whatever you want. You could send any type of message you want. You could make people feel a certain way, laugh, cry, whatever it is. I want to make people laugh, so I want to do more comedy based stuff. But and I think that that's really important, and not just in even film, like music, comedy, like all types of art makes people feel a way, and I think that's what fascinates me. So I want to make people feel a certain way when they see my story.
I like that. Wow.
I think laughter is just one of the best like cures for anything. So
yeah, so you have experimented with like kind of going from like behind the camera to writing and more of like like finding exactly what it is that is more of your forte. So how has your different experiences like with film in these different areas affected the art that you create now?
I think even though some people may say that how do I put it? So I think it was good that I experimented with certain things and found what I really want to focus on. Just because when it comes to film, so I mean, all right, so when you write a novel, right, it's usually just that thing. You write, and it's usually by yourself. A movie is like, what, hundreds of thousands of people working on it, right? So it's a collaborative process. And even though sometimes I beat myself up because like I'm 25 now, and I always have this like mindset where, like, I'm doing things too late in my life, but I gotta chill with that. But I also don't really much, because doing the videos and the editing is really fun. Actually, that's one of the things I might actually look forward to in the future. But when you do it, you get a sort of appreciation for those aspects, and then you sort of you take it into consideration into your writing, so then you can write it in a way that, when that editor sees the script, oh, okay, there you go, boom, the director sees it, boom. So it's sort of a collaborative process, even when you're not really collaborating with anyone. And the same thing for actors. You have to, when you write a piece of dialogue, you got to, you can't be too specific, because you got to sort of let the actors do what they want to do with it. You know what I mean? So I don't ever, like, you did theater, right?
Yeah, I'm an actor.
Right. Okay. So when you read the play that you were going to perform, there's a lot of stage directions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in the screenplay, it's like there's the action, and then there's like the parentheticals where you'll say, oh, I don't know, he sighs or breathing while he like talks in this dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
I can't write too much of that because then it limits the actors on what they can do or can't do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a very intricate. It's like you have to be creative, but you also have to be set within the rules, I guess you could say. You know, so like a sort of like double-edged sword in a way. But it's challenging, but I like it though. It makes you be more creative, I guess. And the thing too is that you know, the teachers I've had, they've said this, and when you do work eventually, when I get to Hollywood, you know, it's going to be a lot of like deadlines, you know what I mean? So I can't spend the next years of my life writing the best novel ever created when I got to turn in something like 3 months from when I'm assigned it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like a job / creative process in a way, I guess, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it might become your day job. So it's like, you know, your process needs to still get you paid and get you in time to keep the job. But
Right.
Yeah. So I want to ask, I know that you've talked about a few classes that you've taken, but what would you say is like the most useful resource that you've had to like hone your skills? Like educating yourself for the art that you create.
I think definitely the Grub Street classes, and also I bought this book called The 90-Day Screenplay, and it takes you on a day-by-day process on literally getting a script done in 3 months. You know what I mean? Because I've always had trouble like trying to finish certain things, and I spend too long on it. Especially with this movie that I said I'm trying to finish this summer. I've spent about a year working on it, and my is a year of like going to it and then staying away from it and going back. So that's what it was. But I decided, you know, listen, I need to do something. I need to finish this because I don't want to stay stuck on this forever. You know, I have other ideas, and I started it, and not hopefully, I will finish it this summer and then move on to something else.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah, so it's been the classes and the book.
And then I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. It's called The Classes. There was from Grub Street?
Grub Street,
Okay. I've never heard of that before, so it might just be because I really don't like writing. But but you know, it's really nice to hear that like there are, you know, that's like a resource that like if you're a writer of like any kind, then like, you know, you can go to it, like whether it's a novel or this or that, like yeah,
it's really cool. The people there are very like they're all chill. They give you honest feedback, which is good, and it's just a good and calming environment. You know, I think they were on Boylston Street, and obviously, you know, COVID shut everything down. But I think they're moving, if I'm not mistaken, to maybe somewhere in Seaport. I got to look it up. But yeah, they're still going to be in Boston. And there's a facility in Rhode Island, in Providence. I almost took a class there, but then I was like, it got canceled, so I never ended up doing it.
So my next question is going to be, why do you create?
I think it goes back to just me wanting to tell what I want to tell. You know, you have these ideas in your head, and you know, when you imagine certain things, it plays out like a movie in your head, right? So I'm always like daydreaming and, you know, imagining things. So I just figured, why not put it on the page? And then, you know, again, hoping that people will see my art and I can invoke some sort of feeling out of it. Especially laughter, because I want to do more comedy based stuff, but it's definitely to get my ideas out and to make people react to them in however way they see fit.
So would you say that that's been pretty consistent, or has it changed at all over time?
No, it's been pretty consistent. I mean, the movie I'm working on is a comedy, but it's that's pretty much been I think, well, okay, so to be honest, I think at first when I did realize like that I want to do all this, I was thinking more of like the like glamorous, like, lifestyle, money and doing all that, which is fine, it's not bad. But then I think eventually I realized like, well, if this is something I want to do, of course you want the money, but you also have to like it, I don't want to be doing something and just making money but be miserable. So yeah, I thought about it a long time. I took the classes, and I'm still with it today, and I still feel the same. Like when I decided, yeah, I really do like this. So it's been going. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So my last question is going to be, where can we find your art? How can people support you?
So I had social media pages, but I took them down. There's just, not to make this too dark, but it was I've been really like in a weird place lately, so I took down a lot of my social media and the pictures. So as far as a professional page goes, I don't have anything. But I think eventually in the future I'll make another one so then people can find me. But I mean, as far as screenwriting goes, you can't, how did I say? You can't really see my art because it's something that I share with other writers too. So, like, be posting up, hey, like, read my whole movie right now on Instagram. You know what I mean? Give me feedback. But yeah, but nah, I don't. As far as right now, I don't have really any social media at least any professional social media to follow.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, I vibe. Like, I always feel so pressured to create, like, an actor's page or, like, like, just some social media that's, like, out there, but you also want to make sure that it's so professional and so perfect. And, like, if you're not in the right mind space, if you don't have the time and energy to really put into that, especially with everything that's going on right now today, like, yeah, it's completely understandable to, like, not keep up with that, because everyone could be looking at you at any point and get a different version if you're not putting your best out there. And that's, like, something that holds me back at points.
I mean, for you, I would say, well, because when it comes to writing, it's like, all right, so how do I put this? When you draw, right, people put their drawings on Instagram, and then you can get a lot of feedback from them. Writing, I mean, like I said, what am I gonna do? Post my script on Instagram and be like, yo, read this, so it's different. And as an actor, I mean, obviously right now you're not really doing any acting because you can't, but I think when things start getting back together, God willing, we all get into our grind and routines and everything, you should consider making an actor's page, just because a lot of actors do it, and you can promote like your next performances, you can promote other people too, and it's, for an actor, it really works well. I think you should do it, honestly.
One thing that I'm thinking about for you is, like, would you, I don't know, like, because I've never really thought about how writers promote themselves. Like, it's, you either just get that book that's hanging on the shelf in Stop and Shop, or, it's like, it's not really like you said, you can't put a painting on, like, in your picture and have that be your Instagram. It's like a thing that you would read. So how have you seen other writers, like, put out their work to be, like, kind of almost like recognized,
I've seen a lot of, like, professional writers that already have blue checks and everything, so they've worked on these big Hollywood productions. So they'll post a picture of, like, the title page and then say, oh, this is coming. But then what that ends up being later on is then promoting the entire movie. So then they'll put up the movie poster, the director, the actors, like everyone in it. So it's not just like their thing, So I think for me, once I make it to where I want to make it, and because my end goal right now is to work in a television writing room. So I want to write for TV. And once I'm in that, then I could start posting more on a professional page that promotes myself while promoting my entire crew, And also, I forgot to mention too, but I occasionally draw here and there. I'm starting to practice more often, but I think once I start doing that, I'll probably make another professional account and then post my art up on there. So yeah, I really like animation. So yeah.
Wait, what kind of animation?
Anime, obviously, and just a lot of the cartoons I grew up with, which is obviously, Last Airbender, Ed, Edd n Eddy. I watch, what's the most recent thing I watched? Adventure Time.
Yes.
Craig of the Creek. There's just, Steven Universe was one I always wanted to get into, but I never got into it.
Yeah, Steven Universe is great. I'll tell you right now, the first 30 episodes, you're gonna think it's like a stupid kids show, and then after that, it blows up. It gets so good.
And I am gonna watch it eventually. I just need to find the time. But yeah, no, animation is just all you could do in animation is just fantastic to me. You really people really draw frame by frame full images to make things that's crazy. That's insane. I don't think they get the appreciation that they deserve, to be honest with you.
For real. I mean, if you ever watch any of those, Snow White or Cinderella, back in the day, when there's no computer to save you at all, you could still see, some of the little lines in their hands, moving from, frame to frame. And it's someone literally took a piece of paper and redrew this scene a billion times.
But it was harder, but that's what, if you compare and, Snow White and Beauty and the Beast and all those movies to animation today, you can see that old style of animation on the cell shading, on the paper, it's not cell shading, on cell and paper and all that. It makes the animation so much more fluid. And it's not saying that today's animation is bad. I don't think so at all, but you can see the difference from digital to hand-drawn paper. It feels more natural, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, even with what I've noticed in films when there's a bunch of CGI versus an actual fire, it's I mean, obviously for the world, an actual fire is probably bad, but for my eyes,
Oh, CG, no, let's put it on fire. Hey, come here. Oh my god!
On fire, right? No, but
right.
No, just thinking an actor being "Yeah, you can run on fire. Yeah, this is not no CGI. Just go." Yeah. But I do not have any more questions. So I, like I said at the beginning, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah.
And do you have any last words or announcements or anything for the listeners before I send us back to the normal Freitae effect?
I mean, thank you guys. Thank you for having me on the show. It's a pleasure. I actually always kind of imagine, being on the show myself. So, but no, thank you again. And to all the listeners, chase your dreams, do what you got to do, and just be yourselves.
Yeah. All right, we're going to send it back. Okay, so we're officially back from Henrique's interview, and it is time for us to debrief all of the interviews together as friends.
Yo.
Yay.
All right, we here. So, let's talk about all of the moments where they identified themselves as artists. I thought it was interesting that there was this, It's usually common that people have a level of imposter syndrome, and I feel like we've mentioned imposter syndrome on the show before, but it's kind of like when you don't feel like you're qualified for something, but you definitely are.
Yeah.
And Henrique mentioned it, and I was like, that's real. We all go through that. I constantly am going through it, but you figure out how to cope and how to work with that. I do it by journaling. And by sometimes you just need to list your accomplishments and reflect and be like, oh, okay, that's what I did to get to where I am. And then just affirm yourself, that has to come from within.
Yeah.
How about you, Simo?
So something that I really vibed with was how, Amanda and Pascale were talking about, their moments of, feeling like they're an artist and, that purpose, the time that you put into it, the... really making a difference, feeling like what you're doing it's serving what your art needs to do. It's that message that you're putting out there it's not just all right, I'm just gonna do this for me. It's like, no, I'm doing this to make change or to make something. And like, yeah, like that resonated hard with me because it's so hard to identify as an artist in general nowadays when you see all this amazing and like these people that bring art to the next level, and you try to compare yourself to them instead of comparing yourself to the art that you create and seeing how you can take yourself to the next level. And I don't know, just accepting any art that you create is art.
Yes.
But, you know, like,
even
also
if you
knowing,
think it's trash.
Yeah.
And I think also that, like, you know, naturally we're all taught in this capitalist country that we grew up in, is that, you know, we are all competing against each other. And what Pascale said was really beautiful about seeing herself as a collaborator, because realistically everything that we do is a collaboration. You know, having this, like, we all have a sense of passion, we all have a sense of purpose that leads us to creating. And the only way that we can really build each other up and have this foundation and have this community of support is by collaborating with each other and enhancing each other's works. That is literally the definition of creativity, is using multiple people's perspectives to have something that is unique and different and new and innovative. That's why collaboration is so key. And like, when you're just being competitive, it's an individualized experience. Like, it's just you, and then it's hard for you to come up with new ideas, and that's why we end up doing the same routine or the same thing, and history repeats itself, is because we don't have new perspectives in these places of power that need to be there.
It's also hard to grow, like, effectively when you're competing with other people, because you're just so judgmental about what you are creating instead of just creating solely from your heart. Like, you know, just letting your passion flow.
And you're just hard on yourself. And there's no reason to feel that way. Like, sometimes, you'll create something and you'll think it's shit, but somebody else might think it's dope. And it might really speak to them. You never know. Like, we don't have to be so hard on ourselves. And also, it goes back to what we talked about in the prior episode with Gus and Trish, of just how this idea of creating for approval or creating for capital versus creating for just contributing in general, you know? And also, when you're competing, there's a level of putting other people down, right? And like, that doesn't need to be the case. The arts world has evolved so much in the past bajillion years, where obviously it was started from a place of elitism, where people who only had money and like could have that access, right? Whereas now we're trying to make it accessible, and this is exposing all of the structures in the system that are preventing people from accessing it. And that's why we're trying to push this collaborative effort, and we're trying to make things more socialist, basically. So,
you did mention how, like, you know, the path that we're going down. So I kind of want to go into this next theme that we found, that that was throughout all the interviews, like the path that people take to get there and how it affects the art that they create today. So I thought that it was really cool how, you know, I interviewed Amanda, you interviewed Pascale, but both of them started off as dancers, and they went into theater, and then they, you know, are performing and acting, and then ending up as directors and choreographers. Like, that's just so cool to see that unity in, like, these two people that have never even met each other. Like,
I thought it was so interesting that, like, people go from dance to theater or dance to directing, because, you know, me as a dancer, I've never seen myself doing anything else. But I mean, obviously I have other artistic identities. Like, as a musician, I play saxophone and I played cymbals, you know? So, like, even for me, when I heard Pascale tell her story of, like, I just stumbled upon theater through, like, a volunteer thing, and then it became such a huge presence in her life, that's kind of similar with, like, me and just kind of, like, the marching arts in general. Like, I never intentionally was like, I can't wait to be a visual teacher for indoor percussion, which is such a specific thing. But I thought it was, like, particular when they mentioned the transition especially when Amanda was talking about how it took time for her to feel comfortable doing something that wasn't dance. And that's real.
Yep.
Because I totally feel that.
Oh, yeah.
And Gus mentioned that too when he was transitioning from culinary to ceramics.
Yep.
Like, you're never going to feel comfortable with what you're doing at first. A future guest that we're going to have on the show talking about WWE, which is coming soon. I remember when my friend Jeremy was transitioning from being a musician, singer to an actor, and I was like, wow, that's really random. I never thought of like you being anything other than a singer, you know? So to hear other people making these artistic transitions, it makes sense, you know, but it's just funny because as Pascale was saying of like, you know, you're an artist, you're seen as an artist, you have to be doing your artistry versus like having a day job and how that's like cursed or frowned upon to be doing something other than your art if you're an artist, and how like that's completely okay. You know,
I also like how they use their past experiences in these, you know, the places that they were in, like as a dancer or like as an actor when they become a director, and then using that perspective and taking that into account to create better art, like, you know, like to enhance the things that they are able to create, since they're able to see themselves on stage and think, how would I most effectively, you know, or would this be the most effective thing to say to an actor right now? Like, how would I react to that?
Right.
And it's so good that they're able to put themselves in the actor's shoes, like to put yourself in the other, like when you're giving advice, you never want to just say like, oh, well, you know, you should stop smoking if you've never fucking smoked. Like, you know, it's like, if you can't speak on the experience, then shut the fuck up. But like, I'm just gonna say that fucking goes for a lot of stuff. But like, especially when it's your art and your profession or something that you're extremely passionate about, then you really want to make sure that you're like taking it in the direction that you want, or that is gonna be the best. Like, you know, you want to make the best thing, and you shouldn't have to be hard on yourself. You shouldn't have to be hard on other people and yelling at them or anything like that. Like, it really takes you being able to take a step back, put yourself in their shoes and think, all right, do I know how I would react to this? Yes, this is what I'm going to do.
I also thought it was interesting how there's this level of difference in leadership from being a performer and being a director. And also just kind of like these double-sided identities of like, you know, I'm a choreographer versus a dancer. I'm a musician versus a composer. You know, I'm an actor versus I'm a director. And how contributing in these different identities are very different. One is very much in the forefront and the other is behind the scenes. And I feel like there's a level of maturity and a level of experience and guide, like in order for you to like guide and to lead, right? I think also in terms of carrying those identities, there is decisions that need to be made, right? And Amanda was talking about how, you know, she's always trying to make things inclusive for everyone. But honestly, you also have to come to the terms with, you can't make everyone happy, you know? And that's where I feel like in the arts world, it's difficult because you're always trying to make everyone happy, and there are things that are going to have to suffer, you know? Not everything can be perfect all the time.
But there's also the idea of like invoking emotion and like, you know, like getting out what you want to put into the art instead of making everyone happy. Like just, what's the word? Pandering to the audience. Like, you know, it's not always that you're going to be doing that, or pandering to even your actors. Like, you know, like you have to stay firm to who the fuck you are and what the mission was when you started. So, but I'll get more into that a little bit later.
I think it's also important to point out something that I didn't think about before that I thought was interesting that Henrique mentioned in terms of the writing part of comparing writing and creating a TV show or creating a film and that process compared to writing a book and how that's different, or writing a play or putting together all those things, right? Like obviously writing a book is much more individualized. It's just like you and your publisher, really, and your editor, right? But that's not that much of a team dynamic. Whereas putting on this whole production of, you know, you need people who know how to do cinematography, you need fashion design, you need makeup people, you need a space. There's like so many elements of organizing and logistics and promotion. Like, there's so much, right? And like that goes into writing a book too. But I thought it was interesting he brought that up in terms of like deciding what type of writing was for him.
Yeah.
And which direction when he was talking about his transition.
Because there's so many roles for you to play in all these, like, different areas of art. And, like, you know, like, even directing. Like, when Amanda was talking about all the little things. Like, you know, it's like there's so many little things. But if one light does not go on, then, like, let's say that's the spotlight. And then the whole screen or the whole stage is fucking black.
Facts.
Like, you know, it's like, all right, it's a little thing, but it totally changes the mood of the moment.
Yep.
Like each little, you know,
every
position,
little thing makes a difference.
Yeah,
there are so goddamn many things that have gone wrong in the middle of my performances, and I am bitter, and I will not name them, but you know,
bitter but not petty.
Yes. But, you know, obviously I've had to accept them. And in the middle of the performances, I could have stormed off the stage and been like, fuck y'all, we're restarting it. But obviously I didn't because I respect my dancers.
As a professional.
And I'm professional.
Yep.
And I, at the end of the day, am the only one who knows what went wrong.
Yeah.
The audience doesn't always know what went wrong, you know, especially if you're good at what you do.
Yep. Just smile through it, guys.
So what was your point?
Oh, so the point that I was talking on a little bit earlier was about, like, evoking emotion, because that was something that Henrique talked about a little bit earlier. And it was, you know, the response to the question of why do they create? You know, it's that idea of, like, putting yourself into this art and seeing yourself, like, up on that stage and then evoking these reactions to people based on, like, these experiences that you have. Whether or not that's exactly what they were going for when they were saying that in the interview, that was something that I took away from it. Because, you know, you always, as an artist, you are putting yourself out there. Like, you know, at the end of the day, it's always you are putting yourself to be talked about or to be seen or to be heard. And people are going to have any kind of fucking reaction that they do have to it.
Yep.
But you can't control that. What you can control is what you do when you are out there. And you always try to just do what you think is filling the space and, like, taking your passion the way that you need it to go. And, like, Henrique sees it going into, like, comedy. Like, you know, Amanda felt like when she's, like, making statements or, like, she's, like, doing things that really make a difference. Like, you know, it's like, I don't know, it's like that gut feeling within yourself that, like, you are the art.
Yes. And I think that that's why so many of us struggle with identifying ourselves as artists is because it's really hard to compartmentalize your identity as yourself and your identity as an artist and your art, because it is literally an extension of you when you're creating. And as they mentioned, the main reasons why they create is because they want to see pieces of themselves. They need to see representation of themselves in this work.
Yep.
Right? And that's why we watch certain things. That's why we participate in certain entertainments. Is because we see people who look like us or people who are experiencing what we are going through.
That makes us feel more comfortable.
Yeah, and we're learning how to process things through how their behaviors are being portrayed.
Yep.
That's why we do this, yo.
Yep. Hence
Literally.
the podcast. Like,
that's why we're here.
Hey, we're here.
We're here for you. But yeah, something that Amanda said that I thought was really funny was that she was just like, it is not about the money. And the amount of times that Simon and I and other people have said, yo, we are not here for the funds, y'all.
Yep.
And why we say this shit ain't free is because this shit
just ain't.
It costs money to do
God.
this. And we, not all of us are making money doing it, you know? So please support your local artists.
Donate to the podcast.
Yes. So shall we do a quick break?
Let's hear some jokes.
Let's get it.
Dad jokes! Notes and quotes! Dad jokes! Notes and quotes! Dad jokes! Dad jokes! Notes and quotes! Pascale Florestal.
This is from Danite, so it's clean.
Okay, so it's safe.
No, it's not.
It's Danite. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Jalapeno.
Jalapeno.
Face.
Oh, Danite.
All right, this guy goes to a whole house, and he doesn't have much money, so they send him up to this lady. He goes, "What's up?" And she's like, "You gotta have sex with my head." And he's like, "What?" And she takes her eye, a glass eye, out of her head.
No.
He's like, "I can't do that." She's like, "Oh, that's all you got money for." So he does it.
Oh.
And he's like, "Wow, that was the best sex I ever had. I'm coming back." And she goes, "I'll keep an eye out for you."
Wow.
You never really heard that.
No.
Wow.
You know the Sandy one.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be the Sandy one.
it wasn't Sandpaper Sally.
I was so ready for it to be
I'm
about
so-
Sandpaper Sandy.
Okay,
Can you tell
Sandpaper
that
Sally.
one?
No, I'm not. No, that's for another episode. No.
What's
Kinda.
the joke that Papa used to tell about horses in the mud?
Oh.
You want to tell it? I know what it is. It's the dirtiest joke you can tell.
I love this joke.
So, you want to hear a dirty joke?
Yes.
Yeah.
4 white horses went in the mud. 5 came out.
When I was a kid, I did not get that joke.
It's hard to
Right
get.
over my
Yeah,
head.
It makes sense.
It's time to take the keys.
Take it
Take my
away. Alrighty, you want to go first?
Yes. Okay, so something really, 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 really important.
Yes.
This is the second time that Avatar has been mentioned on our show. So if you were not part of the Avatar generation, better get hit because it's on Netflix.
Yep.
So you have plenty of time
Yep.
to start watching.
This is for you.
But if you didn't know that it's on Netflix and you are part of the Avatar generation, it's there.
It's worth
so
a rewatch.
Go feed your soul because,
Yes.
it's worth it. You could rewatch it 1,000,000 times. It's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
As I said before the break, Amanda said it herself, support your local artists, go to their shows, but go when it's safe, please.
Yeah. Don't put your life on the line just to go see something. 'Cause you might not see anything. Okay, but we're not going to get dark. More key takeaways. I'm sorry.
Do you want me to do all these keys? Because I can.
I didn't write any of the keys, so they're not my keys to take. And I will not whitewash your keys. So
Thank you. I appreciate. Don't culturally appropriate my keys.
that's what I meant.
So I heard in Enrique's interview that he was saying, oh, maybe it's too late in the game for me to get into this. Yo! Shut up! It's never too late for you to start doing anything. Literally anything. Anything. You want to lose weight? It's never too late.
Yeah.
You want to be an actor? It's never too late.
You want to gain weight?
You want
Go
to gain
ahead.
weight? Do
Fucking
it.
do it.
Fat shaming, episode 3
Yeah.
of this season.
Yeah.
Body positivity, episode I don't remember
12.
of last season.
Fuck 12.
12! 12!
12.
He needs some milk. If you don't know what 12 is,
Figure it out, y'all.
Attend a
We're not your
protest.
fucking educators.
FTP. But back to my main point, it is literally never too late. You are never too old. Like, how do you think old people do things?
Facts.
Like, do you think old people just stop existing when they're old? No, they still do things.
You see that ripped old man? He started working out at some point, and
Yeah.
he never stopped.
Or like the guy who created KFC.
Yep.
Didn't he like create KFC after having like an almost suicidal moment or something?
I think he failed hardcore. And
or
then
even
was just,
like yeah.
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah, he was like, I'm making my goddamn chicken. Or like, didn't J.K. Rowling, even though she's canceled because like
Yep.
she said some horrible things about trans people, and Daniel Radcliffe is now the new J.K. Rowling,
Yep.
who is also the Harry Potter himself. But yeah, didn't she start the whole series like after getting a divorce and also being like really depressed? Like, I think that's what happened. And if I am wrong, you can fact check it. So I was saying, it is never too late. Also, another thing that Enrique said, mental health is a thing. If you're in a weird place and you don't want to be on social media, you don't have to.
Yeet that shit.
You are still a person without social media.
Facts.
Seriously.
Yes.
We are actually more human without social media.
It's crazy.
So let's be people. It's
almost like we're
You don't have
natural
to be
beings.
there.
Like,
that
what?
shit overwhelming.
Wow.
Especially nowadays where everybody's trying to just throw a lot of
Because
energy.
everyone's on social media right now because we're all locked up.
Yeah,
but,
social
like,
media is just really loud right now, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, y'all can press pause, like take a break, it's great, but like keep Twitter because Twitter's fun. And follow us on Twitter at TFE Pod. Another thing, as I said, or as Henrique said, being a writer and trying to promote your stuff on social media is kind of hard. But Homeboy wants to write for TV and film. So if you are hearing this, hire him.
Give him money.
Okay.
Do it.
And lastly, I really loved what he said at the end. Chase your dreams, do what you got to do, and just be yourselves. That's it. Run with scissors. Oh, well, yeah. So, my brother dear, do you have any announcements?
I would just like to announce that I have no announcements. Do you have any?
I do not right now, but I do have a follow-up about that creative project I was talking about in the last episode.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, y'all! So, your girl is out here dancing again, I guess. And I'm doing a collaboration with Nozama Dance Company.
Nozama.
And they're dope-ski, and we love them.
Dope-ski,
so be on the lookout for any type of dance video projects that might be popping soon. I'm just excited to be creating again.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I've finally gotten to this point.
Well, I'm happy that you're creating again. I want to get back into acting. So if y'all want to hire me, fucking hit me up, y'all, because I'm unemployed.
Yes.
For now. But I think it's time to sign off the episode. You ready?
Yes. Be sure to like the episode.
Share with friends and follow us on social media.
Subscribe and comment on SoundCloud.
Follow on Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Or wherever you stream us.
Email us or
comment on social media.
Or
leave a review with any feedback.
And
affirmations.
Or
topics that you want to hear on the show.
Where?
At thefreighteseffect@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening.
And have a great rest of your week.
Okay, bye.